You are listening to the We Hired a Sitter for This podcast.
We hired a sitter for this.
We have a roster of like 7 sitters.
I hate authority, but I'm a mom.
I'm an old man. I need orthopedic shoes.
The laughs, the chuckles, the TMI.
Some people might say, why would you have kids? The oceans are rising. The economy's collapsing.
And they're not wrong. I'm Ross.
And I'm Patrick.
And we hired a sitter for this.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Welcome to episode 174 of Sad Man Talking to Himself. No. This is the podcast. We hired a sitter for this. Today is not a we episode. It's a me episode. I think I've used that as an opener before, but who cares? I'm going to repeat myself. This is a podcast I started with my wife, Ross Martineau, who is the best. She's just like an amazing woman. She and I started podcasting in 2017 under the name Who Cares About Ross and Patrick. Very funny podcast, and it's in this same feed. If you're listening to this episode on your podcast platform, you can go all the way back to the beginning where it's just Ross and I and guests. We used to have guests too. And then about a year ago, we changed the title to We Hired a Sitter for This because we have a child. We have a 4.5-year-old. And about a year ago, I started co-hosting this show with my buddy Gastor Almonte, who's a very talented comedian, performer, storyteller, actor. And because he's so talented, he's busy right now. So I think he's got a couple cool auditions he's prepping for right now. So that's why he's not here. But I'm here, and I'm just going to talk to myself and to you, of course, for the next 3.5 hours. That's how long each of these episodes are. We sit down in our studio and we smoke cigars and drink whiskey and smoke weed and talk about aliens and government conspiracy theories. Thanks for coming. This is the Joe Rogan Experience. Welcome. Live from Austin, Texas. The lizard people are here, and they've taken over our government. And here at the Joe Rogan podcast, I think we like that. Is that what's going on? I don't know. I don't know what goes on with that podcast, really. I am a little afraid of what's happening with our government and in the world. Feels like a weird time. I don't know how much I'll get into that today, but yeah, I'm excited. Today is, I think we're going to be launching the official trailer for the documentary I made with Joe List today. I think that's going to come out for the first time. And I'm really excited for it to be out in the world, even though this trailer is just sort of like a 2-minute sneak peek of what's in the film and what the film's about. And today, by the way, I'm recording this on Tuesday, February 4th. I believe this is the 4th of February. And this podcast will come out on Wednesday, tomorrow on the 5th. So when you hear this, if you get a chance, please go to YouTube, check out Joe List's channel. You can maybe search for Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian. You could probably just search Joe List documentary. And check out the trailer and go on the comments, because the point of releasing this trailer is for the people. This is from what I understand. This is all very complicated to me. Well, it's not that complicated, but it's just new for me. There is a agency or a person who is now in charge of selling our film or pitching our film to movie theaters to say, hey, we have this documentary. Can we play it in your movie theater? And then we get it placed in those theaters. And by putting the trailer out there, it makes it look cool to these theaters that so many people are interested in it. So if you could watch the trailer and then say in the comments, wow, this seems great. I would love to see this in Skokie, Illinois, or I live in Bangor, Maine. I'd love to watch it here. Or, Wallkill, New York. We have movie theaters in Newburgh and Middletown. I would go see this movie. This seems hilarious. So yeah, we want to light up the comment section with like where you're from and would you go see the movie in the theater. And if you don't know anything about me or this film or anything, I guess I'll give you the pitch. Basically, if you're a creative person, if you're a performer, if you're an artist, or if you're just a human being, first of all, the movie is hilarious. It's got a lot of funny stand-up in it. Both Joe and Tom are like some of the best comics around. They're great. There's stand-up from both of them individually. There's stand-up with them together on stage. But it's also like a really touching documentary about what long-term friendship can look like. I mean, these guys met each other doing open mics in 2001, so they've been friends for 24 years now. Their careers have taken different paths, and they both quite vulnerably explore that and what that means and how that can affect a friendship. What happens when one of your friends achieves every possible goal in the whatever career you're in? How do you compare yourself to that person? How do you not lose your mind with envy or all the funky stuff? Like if you've ever experienced going out to dinner with a friend who has way more money than you do, what is that dynamic like when it's time to pay the bill? How does that make you feel? Like all those layers and levels of discomfort are kind of like discussed in the movie, not that specifically, not like money disparity when it's time to pay the bill, but the idea of money comes up in a way that I think is just interesting for artists, for anybody. There's a lot of talk of mental health, which I think has become a hot topic these last few years. People are being way more open and honest about the different mental health challenges they might have. And both of these guys are really open about their respective issues and how those issues intersected or interplayed. I don't know the word. When they lived together in Boston. And it's about... Is this an impassioned pitch to go see a movie? No, the trailer does a much better job of kind of giving you an idea of what it is. But yeah, it would just mean a lot to me if you're somebody I know or you care about what I'm doing with my life. It would mean a lot to me if you went and saw the movie. I'm just so proud of what we made. Working with Joe has been a dream come true. I mean, he's like my favorite comic. He's just an amazing guy. I just love this guy. He's so talented and smart and interesting and cool. And like, those are all the reasons why anybody would like him, but he's also just a really good guy. And he's been there for me in a couple cool ways. And I've gotten to know him over the past few years and it's been really cool. And when he asked me to make this film, I was excited because it's him. I'll do anything with him because I just think he's a true artist and he has a vision for things that interest him. But I don't know if I was ever resistant or reticent or whatever. Maybe I was a little afraid of like, okay, how are we going to actually make this thing? Like, how's it going to come together? And we went to Key West for 4 days, exactly 2 years ago now. It was I believe it was the first weekend of February of 2023 that we went there for 4 days and filmed a whole bunch of stuff between him and Tom. Tom is the main subject of the film. And as we're shooting, I'm like, I don't know how any of this is going to make any sense. All of my training, all of my experience, all the TV documentaries I made, I mean, there were so many. I did that for so long and have been on, hundreds of shoots where there's a way to approach a story. You go in and you figure out what's interesting about a person. You kind of systematically interview them. You film scenes and footage and just follow these people around their daily lives, kind of looking for how to capture a person on tape or on the hard drive or whatever figuring out how to capture a person in their life in a way that you will then be able to edit together in a way that makes sense later. And you learn all these ways of doing that makes it easier when it does come time to edit that story. And on this shoot in Key West, all of that was out the window. Because first of all, I was supposed to get there on the Thursday night. I had a gig in New Mexico for college on a Wednesday, and it was supposed to be a very straightforward day of travel the next day. Get on a plane Thursday morning, get to Key West late afternoon or whatever on Thursday. The whole country was shut down with blizzards and crazy winter weather, and I ended up arriving there. Oh, God. I think it was the middle of the night Thursday. It was like, gosh, how did it go? I was there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? Man, now I got there. Yeah. So I landed, I couldn't get to Key West because of what was going on with the flights. I ended up getting to Miami at like about midnight on the Thursday, and I rented a minivan because that's all that was available. And I drove a minivan through the night to Key West, which is like, it's an hours long drive. I mean, it's I don't know if it was 3 hours. It was quite a long drive. All right. Actually, speak of the devil, I need to text Joe right now. He's got a work question. So let me just respond to this. Literally texting about uploading the trailer. It's so weird. I'm not even in the movie. But when I post something to my own YouTube for my stand-up or one of these episodes, I very much go to this place of like, all right, it's out there. I don't care what happens with this. It's just off my plate. But this, I really want people to like it. And I'm now afraid, like, does the trailer show enough? Did I work hard enough on it? Did I have enough time? That's the problem. This whole film, with the right budget and time, I think it's as good as it can be. But things can always be better, right? So I don't know. I'm just like, now I'm like, okay, it's happening. This thing is going to be out there. Freaks me out. All right. He texted something else. Let me, let me respond and then we'll pick back up. Okay. So what the hell was I talking about? Yeah, the trailer going out there and the production itself. Yeah, I guess I'll get back to the story about going down there. So I got to get this minivan. I also only had a debit card on me at that point, I believe, or my credit card wouldn't work for some reason. That was a whole thing to try to rent this car. I get down to Key West in a fucking huge minivan, this enormous family style minivan, and every time I'm spending money, I'm just like, man, like Joe is literally paying for this whole thing out of his pocket. He's doing well for himself, I assume. I don't know his exact situation, but I spent $500 shipping gear down to this place. I bought, I don't know, $1,200 worth of flights to get there. Those flights all had to get changed. I don't even know how that works. I rent a van. I'm just like, I'm just like, this guy is just spending so much money on me getting there, and he doesn't even know. Like, I've shot other stuff for him, or I've done some other various editing, but at this point, I don't really know if he knows what I'm good or not good at, So he's spending all this money, and I get there. Yeah, I got to Key West at like 5 a.m, and we stayed at this hotel. It was called the Southernmost something, and everything has that phrase in it in Key West. The southernmost this, the southern that. And I knocked on like, at 4 a.m, there's nobody there to let you in. All these hotels are run by like people who live near there or live around or whatever. And I just, I couldn't get in. I couldn't figure out which hotel we were staying in. I couldn't reach them because Matt Salacuse was there already. Joe was there already. They're all asleep. So I'm trying to get into this hotel. I was very close to just sleeping in the car. And then I slept for like 2 hours. I think I finally got in the bed at 6. Like the sun was coming up when I first got in bed. And the way I parked the minivan on the street, it could only be there till 8 a.m., I think. So I had to get up to deal with reparking the car, paying for a parking spot at this little hotel, more money. And then I get back in bed to then, get it. Joe's an early riser. He's sober. He when he travels, he likes to get up and do stuff. And I told him I was there, and next thing I know, we're getting up and meeting up at 9 a.m. to start the day or whatever time, 9 or 10. And I had zero sleep. And we just start shooting from Friday morning all the way to Monday morning, pretty much as possible. We just shot so much footage. Matt Salacuse and I had never shot anything together. I think we had met by that point, but I'm honestly not sure. And that's a whole thing. For years, I shot TV documentaries with a bunch of different people, but mostly my buddy Chuck. And him and I did quite a few of these shows together, the True Life episodes. And that took a lot of time to like learn each other's vibes, man. It's like a vibe thing. You start to predict where that person's going to point their camera and how you can move around them. It becomes this like ballet of gathering footage. It's like very choreographed, but not it's not choreographed. That's the thing. It's this intuitive thing where you're kind of like guessing where the person's going to go next. And since Matt and I had never done this kind of work together, I just didn't know how he shot stuff, and he had also been filming already starting on Thursday, so it was sort of like this, well, he's the lead guy now because I wasn't there to start at the same time as him. Not that matters. It's not that my ego cares about the hierarchy of it. It was more like, well, who's gonna follow whose lead, And I may have probably come on a little strong because I do have ideas about how we can shoot things best or get a story from beginning to end. That was the thing too, is like this was originally called Portrait of a Storyteller, and Joe mainly wanted to go collect stories from Tom and make it about all the different stories he tells and the different experiences they've had over the years, which is in there. That's all in there too. But for me, it was sort of like, well, let's capture what's really going on between these two people. And to do that, you just have to shoot everything and try to get everything. And it was just it was a blur. It was a blur of 4 days. It was really fun and beautiful. I mean, that is a special place. And it was just a really cool thing. And like Tom, I had met, I think in the spring of 2019, I had a show up in Maine for a college, and I put together this whole little New England run where I did shows at the Shaskeen pub in New Hampshire on my way up, and then I did the show in Maine, and then on the way down, I stopped in Boston and I did like a daytime TV show with a comic who has like a public access show, and then that night I got a guest set on a headlining show that Tom was doing at the Nick's Comedy Stop. And that night when I met him, so this was my first impression of Tom Dustin. He was still living in Boston full time, and he was about to leave, and Jack Burke was there, and I think Jack Burke and I had known each other already, and Jack was emceeing. And he brought me up, and at the time I was doing all this material that was like really revealing about my sex life and like different stuff Ross and I have talked about on this podcast, but it was like kink and BDSM and sex and polyamory and all this really personal stuff that, by the way, sneak preview here, or I'll plant the seed for all my fans. I know my fans are ravenously waiting for me to release more stuff. That's me being sarcastic. I'm going to go on the Risk podcast in June, and I did a podcast called The Body Storytelling Show a year and a month ago now. It was January of last year. So on both of these podcasts, I'll tell stories about that part of my life, which may be over. I don't know. Things have become quite sort of regular for me in my personal life. So maybe that makes sense to now work on that stuff again, because now it feels like that story is complete. It feels like I had a phase of some kind that was intense and exciting and titillating, but I think it's probably over for me. Not sex in general, but like the really spicy stuff. So anyway, I'm going to do the Risk podcast in June, and I think the Body story, I think she's the producer's doing me a favor and holding the story until my special comes out in April, so that I have a couple things happening that will hopefully promote each other. So anyway, I have some stories that I'll be practicing at shows and mics and stuff about all this stuff. What was the point of me bringing that up? So I did that material on this show with Tom, and I remember when I came off stage, Jack was introducing Tom. So in one ear, I hear Jack, the MC, saying, "This next comic is the best comic in Boston. He's the funniest comic alive. I love this guy. Give it up for Tom Dustin." And as he's going on, Tom is in my other ear going, "That's a little much. That's a little much. That's a little much." And to this day, I don't know if he was saying my material about sex and kink and cross-dressing and whatever I did a set about. I don't know if he was like, why did this guy come from New York to do my show and talk about all this shit? So for years before I went to Key West, I've had it in my mind that this guy, Tom Dustin in Boston, thinks I'm a shitty comic, or I'm a hack, or I'm a pervert, or I don't know what he thought. But my impression of him that night was that he was standoffish, but the guy's hilarious. Like, his material is so great. Go to on YouTube, if you search Dangerous Now, Tom Dustin Dangerous Now, you will hear some of the funniest comedy bits ever. It's a great album, and I think you can only get it on YouTube. I don't know. But he was so killer, but I also left that night feeling intimidated and feeling like I felt it was very vulnerable to do that kind of material, and I don't think it destroyed that night. I think it went fine, but it sucked to like feel like, oh, I bummed that guy out, And then so we go to Key West, and I'm sort of worried, like, will this guy even remember me? Of course he didn't. I mean, there's this guy, he works a lot, does a lot of shows, he's whatever. And every preconceived whatever I had about him, like I guess I just always think of Boston as like these tough, no nonsense guys. And he was just so sweet and so nice and so appreciative that we were there, and just so hilarious. I mean, the guy is hilarious. And he can be a crank, and he can be a smart ass, and he can say shitty things about people. And that comes up in the film too, is that he could say some crappy things to people. But it's funny. He's being funny. And, but really everybody knows that he's this kind of sweet, scared guy. And I'm just blown away by how open he was about who he really is in the footage. Because that's one thing I'll say, like, all my years of doing this stuff, it's like very clear that anybody you're filming with, they have their agenda, like they have their reasons to go on the show. they want to start the editing process as you're shooting. Like, they are editing what they're saying, they're editing what they're wearing, how they present themselves, and they really want to control the process more than they will tell you. And Tom, I'm sure he had different things he would prefer not to talk about, or things that he wish he said differently, or whatever, or things he wished we would point the camera at, or whatever. I'm sure he had things like that, but overall he did not care. He just was happy to open up and be honest and talk. And it was beautiful. And I did not expect to feel so reconnected with documentary filmmaking as an art form as I did. It feels like such a gift that I got to make this real thing about a real person, going through real stuff. And there's nothing contrived. There's just like nothing contrived about this. And I did not know I would feel this proud of it. It also feels like the culmination of a few parts of my life coming together. So it's comedy, of course. March 4th, 2014 was my third attempt at doing comedy over the years of my life, and it stuck since then. So, February 2023, I guess I was doing comedy for 9 years at that point. And finally, I was like filming something with comics I think are hilarious and I admire and I'm really actually curious about. So it was documentary mixed with comedy. And then this surprising theme, I mean, I guess we weren't surprised that it came up, but I'm surprised at how honestly it came up. This theme of drinking and alcoholism and substance use and recovery. I did not expect for those themes to be as prevalent and as important to the film as they were. So yeah, comedy, filmmaking, recovery all together in this way that I just could not have predicted. And when every time we watch the film, we're just like, oh my God, it's crazy how much these things are interwoven throughout. So yeah, I don't know if any of this is interesting to the casual listener here, but maybe this will be interesting to me one day to have in the archives, because life is going to keep going so fast, and this will all be a faded memory eventually, right? Oh, so I was just thinking about the way people try to control the process with documentary filmmaking. I guess I'll share a little bit about something that's been fascinating for me at home here. Ross watches The Real Housewives as like comfort food at the end of a long, stressful day. She'll pop on Housewives of whatever. And we've been watching The Real Housewives of New Jersey, which features Danielle, who I have known Danielle now for... I don't know her now. I met Danielle, I think 20 years ago. I think it was spring of 2005. No, it was probably 2006. So 19 years, coming up on 19 years. I shot a show for MTV called True Life, I'm a Staten Island Girl. And I remember when we met Danielle, we did a big casting thing with Charlie from True Life, I'm Getting Married. Charlie was in Staten Island. He gave the famous soliloquy over the phone about how he's going to track down the limo driver for being late and gut this guy like a fish, or gut him like cattle. I can't remember. I'm going to track you down like cattle and I'm going to gut you like a fish. I believe that's what the soliloquy was. Rest in peace to Charlie. He passed away a couple years ago. It's really sad. Cause turns out he's actually a great guy. He was a great guy. He helped us put up a little casting event in Staten Island. I remember driving down there with, I think it was Pat Lope, Mark Patini. I think it was the three of us. We went there and we just met dozens and dozens of young people who wanted to go on this show, True Life, I'm a Staten Island Girl. I can't remember who pitched Staten Island Girl, how this show came to be, but Pat Lope got this project assigned to him, and it was just such a fun, surreal, singular experience of learning what Staten Island is all about through the eyes of these three women. And yeah, it was Lauren, Danielle, and Angela, I believe what the third one's name is. And Danielle, I just remember thinking, this person is a force of nature. I'm scared of her. She is in charge. She knows what she wants. Totally, just really big, like a big personality in all the possible ways. And yeah, we filmed with her. Pat and I did a test shoot with her one night, and we both just couldn't stop saying like how amazing she is. Like, you turn the camera on and she just was totally herself. Well, this is what I'm saying. I think she edited herself, but not edited herself down. She always knew to be bigger and more dramatic. And it's incredible to see her on The Housewives now, just causing so much trouble and drama. And I'm just like, this person will always be on TV. Like, she will always find a way to entertain people with her personality. There's stuff that happened while we were filming with her that I probably can't talk about, like legally. I probably signed paperwork that says I can't do it. But I will say it was always an adventure and a little uncomfortable. And one time there was just probably one of the most scared I've ever been in my life while holding a camera was in Staten Island with her. I think I'm allowed to say that legally. I was scared literally for my safety and my life because I'll just say a fight broke out in a public space and she was involved, I'll say. And that literally was scarier than I went to Haiti a week after the earthquake to help a community service group film like promotional documentary stuff or whatever. I was in Haiti. I could smell decay, biological decay. I remember mosquitoes flying in my ears through the night because we slept outside on a driveway because the guys whose house we were at said, "You're welcome to sleep inside, but we don't know if it's going to fall down." So we slept on mattresses on the driveway of this person's home. Driving with a ex-military Marine in an SUV, driving 50 miles an hour through the tiniest streets I've ever seen, bumper to bumper with the car in front. Totally scary, out of comfort zone experience. Being in Staten Island with Danielle was scarier than that. I'm trying to think of other scary situations I've been in with a camera. Oh, one story I keep thinking I should bring to the stage. Maybe I'll talk it out here. No, I guess now this is just like a documentary nerd podcast episode. There was one show we did True Life, We're Eloping, and it was about young people who were going to go secretly get married away from their families. And I filmed with this couple up in Westchester County that never ended up on the show because they got cold feet. Or did they end up on the show? I can't remember now. Yeah, anyway, it was the girls' like bachelorette party. One of them wanted to go celebrate at a strip club before the wedding, and I go to the strip club. Oh, this is so funny. I can't remember. I think they were both there. Maybe that's what it was. They just went to the strip club together as a bachelorette party. And I remember calling the strip club saying, "Yeah, we're an MTV documentary. We just wanted to see if we could get permission to go and film with this couple." And I remember thinking, there's no way they're going to say yes to this. I mean, we can't film in a strip club, and MTV wouldn't let us use that footage, so there's no way we can do this. But everybody says yes. So I go up to, I think this is in Nyack or something, and I film in this strip club, and strip clubs are dark, and the cameras back then weren't great, so you had to use what's called a sun gun. It's basically like a lamp on the top of the camera so that whoever you're pointing the camera at, you can see them. And I remember... and it was also like the weird thing of going to the strip club too early in the day, or it was some weird night of the week or something. So anybody who was there was like really into strip clubs. It wasn't like the fun party groups of people. It was just like dudes in trench coats and hats down low and like drinking beer like on an off night. Except for this couple, they were fun and having a good time. And I remember just like the music was so loud, and I was like, that we're not even going to be able to hear anything they talk about. I just have to film them when they go out to smoke cigarettes or whatever. But I'll get B-roll while I'm in there. And also something I learned over the years, like when you're in an uncomfortable environment, having a camera becomes a superpower because you can just pretend like you're busy with whatever you're filming. So I just shot a ton of B-roll. And at one point, I'm like pointing the camera. I'm like getting some dancers. I think I had to get individual dancer permission for who was cool with me filming and who wasn't. And one of the girls who said I could film her dancing was on stage, and I went up to get some shots of her, but the lights were all weird, so I had to turn on the sun gun. And as I'm filming her, I start to feel the feeling of people being too close to me. Like, you know, when somebody's like staring at you or whatever, and the hair goes up on your neck. I just felt this feeling of like, oh, there's like dudes all over me, or like, there's like someone is near me. And then I'm like looking through my viewfinder, and I'm like realizing, oh, I'm really getting too much footage here. Like I think the girl was like on her hands and knees, and her like butthole was like very visible on screen because I had the flashlight. It was like giving somebody an exam or something. And then I kind of look over and I realize all the dudes are looking at my viewfinder and standing behind me because they want to get a better view through the light. Like they're seeing what they're actually interested in better because I'm there. And it skeeved me out so much. It made me feel so horrible that I'm like doing this, but it was also with consent. I mean, the girl said I could film her with the light. Like that was part of the whole thing. But I just remember thinking like, oh, these guys have no shame. They don't care. They don't care about being in my bubble. Like they just want to get to see what they want to see. So maybe that felt more dangerous than Haiti also. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. These are all stories that I've thought about. I'm curious I don't know if they're interesting in a stand-up kind of way, or if there's just like a book of anecdotes or something to write down. I don't know. Maybe it's a blog post. Maybe it's a tweet. I don't know. Went to the strip club with a camera. Pervs sidled up to me and made me scared. All right. Well, I don't know. This we can keep this one short. It's 40 minutes right now. What else did I want to touch base about? Oh, I guess some shows. I'll mention I got shows going on Wednesday night, tomorrow, February 5th, or today when you're listening to this. I'm on at midnight at the Grizzly Pear. Saturday night, I'm doing Don't Tell New Jersey in Jersey City. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I guess I can't say what the venue is, but Jersey City, 7 p.m. show, Don't Tell Comedy, and then 10 p.m. Saturday night at the Grizzly Pear. I mentioned the Risk podcast. That's exciting. My special is coming out in April on Comedy Dynamics. I think via Amazon. I think it's going to come out on Amazon first. And then I'll definitely be in Wisconsin the first weekend of March. I'll be featuring for Ian Fidance at Skyline Comedy Club. And God willing, if I can make this trip work, I'm supposed to be featuring for Ronan Hirschberg in Chicago at Zany's the following weekend. The 7th and 8th, I think, are those dates of March. So Chicago, if I have any friends out there, please do come out. Shout out to Sean Higginbottom. I think he'll be there. I hope you're okay with me using your last name. Yeah, there's just one little detail I got to work out before I shouldn't even be saying this because I saw Ron on the other night and he was like, hey, instead of emceeing, do you want a feature? I was like, yes, I'll be there. And basically, I'm trying to lock in one more college to make that trip worth it. Okay. That's it for this episode. This is We Hired a Sitter for This. This was an episode of a sad man talking alone about documentary filmmaking. I don't know if any of this was compelling or interesting, but I just don't care. Really, honestly, what I'm doing right now is keeping this thing consistent, keeping the episodes rolling, an episode a week, no matter what. That's just feels important to me right now. So I don't know if you weren't enjoying it, you probably turned it off by now. All right. Please go check out the trailer. Tom Dustin, Portrait of a Comedian on Joe List's YouTube. Write something in the comments about how much you would enjoy seeing this movie in the theaters. I will say, seeing it with a group of people in a room at a theater has been so cool. I got to do it twice. Joe has gotten to do it 4 times now, I think. It's so cool to laugh at the same jokes on screen. It's just like there's no better sound. So get a group together. If you're comics, get a little crew of comics to go out to the movie. That would just mean so much to me. All right. I'll see you all next time.